Okay, there's the Shem starting now. Chelek Aleph, Perek Vav, Shabbos, Shalom. So, to begin this Perek, this is the last Perek of this section that that deals exclusively with what is Malchus. So Shalom is the last section over here that is connected to the relationship of the Malchus of Shabbos. And then we will begin in the Perek Beis. So the last the last parak over here, Shabbos Shalom, he begins by explaining what is Shalom. Echad mikinuya shel midas hamalchus hu Shalom. One of the nicknames, one of the other names for Malchus is Shalom. Hamuvan lefi pshuto api kol. Now, based on everything we've learned up until this point, we can understand the idea of Shalom. Sharei mitzius hamalchus hi koyach hakoilel shekol haprotim mitalim mitztarfim umitbatlim elav. That all the pieces, you put all the pieces together, and that's what Malchus is. The Malchus is putting all the pieces together. Each one individual piece on its own doesn't have enough chashivus. In as much as it's much greater, the leg of the table doesn't really mean anything when it's on its own. But when you put it together with the other legs in the tabletop, all of a sudden, you have a table. If you have a table and it's missing one leg, well, that's really not going to be such a great table. But that one leg on its own is really nothing. So you could actually look at it this way. You could look at it as a table that's missing one leg is a table that's missing one leg. Meaning it's a shaky table. You don't want to really be sitting at a table like this. But it's still a table. Whereas the leg on its own is really nothing. It's a piece of wood, right? It's nothing. So the Malchus is what brings all the pieces together. And when all the pieces are there together and they can work together to create the the completed structure, so then there is peace and harmony between them. That is when everything is working together, each piece is bottled to the whole, so now you have a working thing in the end. Whether it be a government or whether it be a table or however we want to look at it, that is where there's a harmonious working of all the pieces together. That is Shalom. And that comes through Malchus. That comes through that there's one thing that brings all the pieces together. Each individual has their own personal desires for something. When there's one entity that has the ability to bring everything together, so then that can create a much stronger, more meaningful thing in the end of the day. Let's give an example. An example would, let's say, be a school. A school is made up of faculty and students. So if you're starting a new school, how you need to have faculty and students. So to get faculty probably is not such a hard thing to do unless there's a shortage. But you're hiring people. People want to come because they're going to get jobs. But how do you convince students to come? You have to have students coming. So when all the parent body gets together and say, this is something that is good for all of us together, so then we have the ability to make that school. And even though parents individually each really only care for their own children, maybe somebody who's a little bit more into Abbas Yisrael and he cares about the whole community, but there's still no comparison between a person's how much he cares about his community and how much he cares for his own children. Certainly his own children come first. Anybody who doesn't have them, it's just not normal, somebody to care more about the community children than they care about their own children. So each person is coming with their own personal incentives, because I want to send my children to the school that I like the best, that I want. But that every person has their own desires, and the parents can't get together and to decide on one mahalach, so then you won't have any school. You won't have anything. Because every parent wants their child to go to a different place. And therefore, they have to, in order to combine together as one, they have to be able to make peace with each other in order to create this mahalach. And then it's up to the school in order to keep that. It's up to the school to keep that harmonious mahalach in order to keep everybody together. If for some reason there starts to be problems in the school and there are issues that come up here or there, it's going to revert back to the previous way, that each parent is going to decide on their own, hey, this school might not be the best school for my kid, and I'm going to take him out. And if enough people say that, then the whole school will collapse. Because at the end of the day, each one is an individual. And that's the koyach of malchus, is the ability to hold everybody together, to keep everybody together, and that's shalom. That's when everybody's in shalom with each other. So then we can create and have that full full working structure that can be beneficial for everybody, much more than just a few pieces of wood and what looks like a tabletop. So that's why he goes on to explain that Malchus is the last midah, which encompasses everything, just like Shalom. Shalom is the last of the brachos of Shmona Esrei, and the last Mishnah in Shas, the Ein Kli Machzik Bracha Yisrael Ela Shalom. Shalom is the Kli that holds everything together. You can have a lot of great things, but if you don't have everything holding it together, so then everything is just going to fall apart. Or you won't be able to have bracha from all of those other things. You need to be able to hold everything together. And that's what we explained in the past also. That's what Malchus is. That's why Shalom is a kinui, it's another name of Malchus, because they're doing essentially the same function. That is holding together everything, bringing everything together to be able to work with each other in order to create something that is much bigger than just the sum of its parts. Now here on Daf Mem, he says a very interesting, very nice yisoid about the opposite of shalom, which is sinah. Hepech ha-shalom hu sinas chinam. The opposite of shalom is baseless hatred. Sinas chinam perusha shesoynei chaveiro lo mipnei sharalo. It's very interesting. Maybe the halachas might not be. There might be a machlokes about this. If this is what actually what sinas chinam is. Sinas chinam over here, he says, means that you hate somebody not because he did something bad to you. Ela pashut mitoch kina. You hate him because you're jealous of him. Hainu sheyesh lechaveru masha ein lo. That he has something you don't have. That's how he defines sinas chinam. Halachically, is that how he defines sinas chinam? Not so pashut.
What's the other side?
The other side to say is that sinas chinam is any hatred, even if he did something bad to you.
Why is that chinam?
What?
Why is that chinam?
So what is the definition? Where is the
If you
isser?
do something bad, maybe then it's not chinam.
You're right, but what is the isser of sinas chinam? Is sinas chinam usher? Is it usher to hate somebody? So the isser to hate somebody comes from a pasuk. Huh? Lo tisnachi chabil vavecha. You shouldn't hate your brother in your heart. And Rashi already mentions in Parshas Vayeshev that when the brothers told Yosef exactly how they felt about him, so they may not have been mimkai in the midst of ahavta orecha kamocha, but they were not over on lo tisnachi chabil vavecha, because it wasn't bil vavecha. It wasn't in your heart. It wasn't in their heart. They told Yosef that they didn't like him. Better to say it than to keep it in your heart. That's what you see. Obviously, it's better to not have it at all.
Yisrael Slanter changed that, no? Didn't he say that? If you have to ask mechila from somebody, he said better not. If you're not 100% sure that he's going to be like happy to hear that you did something.
That's about lashon hara. That's about lashon hara. If you spoke lashon hara about somebody, and you have to be right, because why? Because in order to ask for lashon for mechila, you have to tell him what you did. You have to tell him, I spoke lashon hara about you, and that might end up being worse, right? So it's not necessarily that it's a there's a halacha of lashon hara, but I'll tell you what the Sefer HaChinuch says. There's a machlokes between the Sefer HaChinuch, really, and the Minchas Chinuch. Even though the Sefer HaChinuch is pashtus is a risha, and the Minchas Chinuch is not, but the Sefer HaChinuch says that the issue of lo tisnas achicha v'vavecha applies to everything. You can't hate another Jew for anything, even if he did something bad to you. The only place where it's mutter to hate another Jew is if he is an unrepentant sinner, meaning he is somebody who was choite and he has no remorse for what he's done. He knows exactly that he did a hate, and he doesn't care. Such a person you're allowed to hate. Doesn't matter. Yeah, that's it. He's an unrepentant sinner. That is, according to the Sefer Chinuch, he knows exactly what he did. L'chayra Tinik Shenishba wouldn't fall into this category, because Tinik Shenishba doesn't necessarily know what they did wrong. They don't know that they're doing a chait. They don't know. The Minchas Chinuch is even more extreme, and he says you're only allowed to hate. You're only allowed to hate somebody if they did an aveir lahachis. Not, let's say the person just loves pork. He just loves to eat pork. He knows it's an aveir, but I love it, and I'm going to keep doing it, and that's it. You know, I'm not doing tshuva, so that is an unrepentant sinner, but he's not doing it lahachis. So only such a person you're allowed to hate. So hating somebody because they did something bad to you, it's not falling into the category. You're not allowed to hate somebody for that. So here, that's why I said I'm not sure that this is mamish lahalacha, that he's saying that the only category of sinas chinam comes because of kina. Whereas if he did something bad to you, then it wouldn't be called sinas chinam. Now maybe it would be called sinas chinam, but it would still be aser al sina anyway. So halacha l'maisa, probably you shouldn't hate them even if they did something bad to you, which is a very difficult nisayon. I'm not going to get into the nisayon right now, but that certainly is a very, very difficult nisayon to not hate somebody who did something really, really bad to you. But here, with regards to the opposite of shalom, he explains the opposite of shalom is hatred that comes because of kina, because somebody has something that you don't have. V'dasha sina azu, I'm in the third line in the second paragraph on Daf Mem. V'dasha sina azu bo beheche kasher kol adam prati magish et mitzius atzmo. This comes because each individual feels their own self, their selfishness. It's only me. And he can't escape from this feeling of selfishness, of self-centeredness. That is the essence of what it means to be jealous of somebody else. Why does he have and I don't? If I'm me and you're you, Reuben is Reuben and Shimon is Shimon, so there's always going to be something that he has that I don't have. There will always be something like that. And therefore, there's always going to be a place for Sino. Reuben's going to think, well, what he has really should be mine. Why does he have money? Why does he have, why is he smarter than me? Why? It's not right. Really, he's not smarter than me. He cheated. That's how he got ahead. Yeah, and he stole from people. That's how he got money. And even if you explain, no, it's not like, no. The person, even if they hear, they listen, in their heart, because of their self-centeredness, the kina is not going away. That jealousy is not going away. Only when a person doesn't look at himself as an individual, but he looks at himself as part of the Jewish nation. We're all part of the same mahalech. We're all part of the same team. We're all on the same team. When all of us are Jews, when we're all Yehudim, Anshe Havaya Baruch Hu, we are the nation of Hashem. Mitachdim leklal hagadol shel hamalchus. We unite in order to fulfill that malchus, that unification of being one nation. That our King is a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Az yesh ava v'ach, because everybody is playing a role. We can have love between us. Shama nafkamina imakesef v'aseichel es lo esli. Does it make a difference at that point? Everybody is the hand jealous of the brain? Well, the brain has got all the seichel and the hand doesn't. So why should it? Well, it's not fair. No. Every person has a role to play. Hari ben kach uben kach al kol ach berach letzura mala. Everything is for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we're all on the same team. We're all working together for the same goal. So if we're all working together for the same goal, why am I jealous? Why am I jealous of him? I have my role to play, and he has his role to play. And we're all on the same team. Well, it's about the team. It's not about me. It's about us joining together in order to be Mekadosh Shem Shamayim. I'll share with the tzibur something that amazing thing that I saw today. Amazing idea. The idea comes from a Gemara in Yevamos and Daf Ayin Tes. The Gemara talks about a mice in the Navi in Shmuel Beis of the Gevoinim. The Gevoinim were a group. So the Gevoinim, very good. You remember that? Amazing. The Gevoinim were a group of people from the Shiva Amim of Canaan. They were a group that tricked Yoshua ben Nun into a treaty with them, and they were made into a pseudo-gerus type of people, and they were servants. They had some din of slaves to the Kohanim and for the Beis Hamikdash. And Shaul HaMelech, when he ordered the destruction of Nov Ir HaKohanim, so the Gevonim lost their Parnasa, because that's where they were doing their work. That's where they got their sustenance from, and they were out of a job now, and they lost their Parnasa. Many years later, there was a famine during the time that David was king, and towards the end of David's reign, and after a number of tries, David finally got an answer from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that the reason for this famine is because the Gevonim have a taina that they lost their Parnasa. And make a long story short, it's a very difficult parsha, but to make a long story short, David had to appease the Gevonim in order to get Mechila, in order to end this famine. And the Gevonim would only agree to be appeased if they were given 7 of Shaul's descendants to be murdered, to kill them in cold blood. 7 of Shaul's children or grandchildren were handed over al pi hoira of the Aron Abris, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave his haskama to this, and they were given over and they were murdered by the Gevonim. Not only were they murdered, but they were hung after their murders for many months. Usually, there is a din to hang. There is a din to hang certain chayve mises bezdin, but that hanging usually only lasts for about a few seconds. It lasts for a few seconds. They hang them. What? I don't even think so. I think it's less. Maybe you're right, but it's certainly not overnight. Not even overnight. It's a very short time. They hang them and they put them down. They bring them down and they bury them almost right away. These 7 descendants of Shaul were hung over the course of many months. Their bodies stayed there. And the Gemara there asks the Shaila, how could they do that? They bring Oivran and Isser in the Torah by doing that. How could they do that? They were the Hara Shah to kill them in the first place, which is hard to understand. But to hang them and to keep their bodies like that is such a busha, and it's disrespect to the bodies of these innocent people. Why? How could they do such a thing? And the Gemara says an amazing thing. It says because it was to make a Kiddush Hashem. The Kiddush Hashem was people are going to pass by and they're going to say, what are these bodies hanging here? And they're going to say, this is what happens to people who are pogea in Gerim. Meaning the Gevonim had a status of somewhat Gerim, and they were hurt by Shaul. Even a king who hurts a ger, This is part of the punishment that they give. And he gave such a put Gerim on such a high madrega that it made such a Kiddush Hashem. Gemara goes on to say that there were over 100,000 Gerim that came afterwards. Good question. I don't know. That's what the Gemara says. Ayin Sham. Daf Ayin Tes. Good question. But I thought it was such an amazing thing because the Lashon of the Gemara is such a... What? Yibamos Daf Ayin Tes. If I had it in front of me, I would read it to you. Okay, you know what? You got it. You see that? HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent it to us. Daf Ayin Tes. I'm going to read to you what it says in the Gemara. The Gemara says... Vatikach ritzpa bas aya es hasak v'tateula el atzur mitchilas katzir ad nesech mayim, from the beginning of the harvest season until the rainy season. Until the rain came down. Nosach mayim aleim min hashamayim, until the rainy season. Meaning from the harvest season to the raining season. What? It's a long time, right? That's a long time. They were hanging there. No birds landed on them. Yomam, during the day, and there were no wild animals that touched them at night. Ask the Gemara, but doesn't the Torah say, you shouldn't leave the dead body hanging on the tree? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yehotzadok, Mutav sheta'aker ois achas min haTorah v'yitkadesh shem shamayim b'parhesia. It's better for the Torah that you should be oiker one letter in the Torah. You should be oiker the Torah. It's better to be. This is what the Gemara says. I'm just reading it. It's better to be oiker ois achas min haTorah v'yikadesh shem shamayim b'parhesia, in order to be mekadesh shem shamayim in public. Shahayo oivrim b'shovim oivrim, that people passing by would say, Ma tivan shaleilu, what's going on over here? Halalu b'nei malachim, these are the children of kings. Haim b'nei malachim haim. Ma asu, what they do? Pashtu yedeim begerim. They put their hands up against gerim. They hurt gerim. That's what the Gemara says. So somebody asked me, what do you mean? How can you do such a thing? How can you do such a thing? The Medrash says about Shlomo Melech that Shlomo Melech did certain things. He took more than he was supposed to take. He went to Mitzrayim and he got more horses. He married more wives. He did certain things that didn't seem to be matim for a king, especially the way the Torah says a king should act in Sefer Dvarim. And the Medrash says that Sefer Dvarim came in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and said, Shlomo Melech is making a mockery out of me. So the Medrash says, he's making a mockery out of me. Look what he's doing. In Sefer Dvarim, it says you can't do these things, and this is what he's doing. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said back to Sefer Dvarim, better he and all those like him should die, that one letter in the Torah shouldn't be oiker. And here, it says better that one letter in the Torah should be oiker, in order to make this Kiddush Hashem. Somebody asked, how could this be? We're being oiker davar in the Torah? Oh, right afterwards. You can look at it right afterwards. Towards the bottom. The Maise, what do we know? What's the answer? The answer is from the very, very end of Pirkei Avos. The very end, the Bryce at the end of Perek Vav, which is the Bryce at the end of Avos. It says, Kol Masha Bara Kodesh Baruch Hu Ba'olamo, everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created in His world, Lo Bara Elech Lichvoido. He created it for His kavod. Shenemar Kol Anikra B'Shmi L'Chavoidi Barasi. Yitzar Siv Avasisi. Oimer Hashem Yimloich L'Olam Boed. Everything in the world, everything in existence was created for kavod Hashem, to bring a Kiddush Hashem. And included in that is the Torah. The Torah is also meant to bring Kiddush Hashem. Obviously, that's the core of our guidelines to bring Kiddush Hashem. But if the Kiddush Hashem is going to become through Oiker Torah, so then that's also. Because everything ultimately is coming to bring Kiddush Shem Shamayim. That is the ultimate goal of everything in existence, is to bring that Kiddush Shem Shamayim. That's what we want more than anything else. And that's why over here, that was the cheshbon. Kiddush Shem Shamayim is the biggest, most important thing in the world.
How does defending the Girim, or bringing up the Girim in Kiddush Shem Shamayim to such a degree?
Because it shows, l'chayra, what it shows is that there is no favoritism in Yiddishkeit. In Yiddishkeit, everybody has the same job, to serve Hashem. That's everybody's goal. So if somebody, it doesn't matter how big you are, you're so big, you're still part of the same organism. You don't have a right to hoard yourself over somebody else, which is amazing over there, because Shaul certainly didn't have a kavanah to hurt the Givonim when he destroyed. No, that was certainly not part of the cheshbon, right? But even when it wasn't kavanah b'chalal, but still, this is what happened even by accident. And he was a king. I don't want anybody to say that the king has the law doesn't apply to the king. No. Everything applies to we're all part of the same group. Yeah, some of us might be the finger, and some of us might be the ear, and some of us, but we're all part of the same organism. We're all part of the Jewish people, and we're all equal. And then that shalom between us, that's what gives Klal Yisrael that staying power. That's what gives Klal Yisrael the power to really be Mekadesh Shem Shamayim, because we're all together. And that's what Malchus is. That we're all together, working all together in order to get to our goal to be Mekadesh Shem Shamayim. So when somebody has sinas chinam, they're not looking at themselves and the other person as part of the same team. We're not on the same team. He has something I don't have. No. If we're on the same team, what he has, I have too. The hand is no worse than the ear or the eye. We're all working together. That's what Malchus is. And Schinus Chinam is the opposite. And that's why Sinus Chinam is the cause of the Churban, he goes on to say. Because Sinus Chinam is when I make myself the center. I am the most important thing. If I am the most important thing, so then Hashem can't be the most important thing. It means I'm not working towards the same goal. If I'm not working towards the same goal, so then we don't have unity. We don't have that full Malchus. And this is what he ends off over here. Well, I guess we're not going to be finishing this parak today. We're just in the last parak before, at the end of Daf Mem. Ve'en kli machzik bracha k'mo shalom, like we brought from the Mishnah at the end of Uksin. There is no kli that holds bracha better than shalom. Ruvain or Shimon kama bracha kvar efshel hashpia lehem. When we're individuals, how much bracha can each one of us have? Harei kleim migbolim, each one of our kelim is limited. Aval kasher Ruvain lo nikra Ruvain, v'Shimon lo nikra Shimon. We're not called by our individual name. Ela nikra shneim al shem havaya baruch hu. We're all called by the name of Hashem. Yehudi. We're all Jews. We all love each other. Umachmas shemam mishutaf. It's on our name combined together. Shalom beineim. That's when we have peace between us. Memelu hu shakol mashmos harachamim shebeshem havaya chalem. So then all the mashmos of all the parts, all the aspects of rachamim of Hashem can be chal on all of us together. Hashem can love us all together. If we're fighting with each other, so then there's no one place for the Shekhinah to be shruya. Ve'en gvul lebracha sheshoya al am Hashem, and then there could be no boundaries to the type of bracha, the type of shefa that we can receive from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Especially now, when Klal Yisrael is in a very difficult matzah. It's so important to remember we are all Jews, even if we don't necessarily agree with each other, and even if some people they don't understand what it means Yiddishkeit, but we love each other as Jews because the Jewish people is one whole, regardless if we have different hashkafas. We're still all Jews, and therefore we care about each other, and we try to do the best for each other, and we try to help each other. Okay, Be'ez Hashem, we're going to stop over here. We'll try to finish this whole section next week.